Hello everyone and welcome back to Babs Hockey. Today I'm going to talk about how to stop McDavid. Now, there seems to be this narrative that McDavid is just unstoppable. His scoring ability is second to none. He's going to get like 200 points, and you know what? Who knows? Maybe he could. There's a possibility he could get points that high and really push the boundaries of what Gretzky was able to do back in his day. But when you look to really understand how his game is and what makes him so dynamic, you can start to see a particular pattern. And with the IQGame system I developed for developing hockey IQ, I'm able to see certain patterns and habits that lead to great offense and great defense. And there's a particular pattern for McDavid, and there's a particular pattern and system to minimize his offense and really put him in foreign territory. So first with this presentation, I'm going to go towards normalizing McDavid. We really have to start there before we can move forward into creating a great game plan, especially with players like McDavid, McKinnon, Sidney Crosby, all these great players in the NHL. You have to now start game planning to minimize their offense because they're so dynamic. And so when we look to normalize McDavid, I'm not downgrading the fact that he's special or great. He is. This is a fact. He's going to go down as one of the best players of all time. But is he unstoppable? And I say no, far from it actually. And so when you understand what makes him great, and then you'll be able to manipulate the game to really minimize his effectiveness and put him in unfamiliar territory. And so when we move forward here into the breakdown of what makes McDavid so great, the first thing is his playmaking ability. And so the majority of his points come from assists and derives off double coverage. You're going to see in some of the examples I'm going to put later on here that he naturally attracts multiple players towards him because of his speed, and it's just a natural tendency, a pattern that players will do because they are fearful of him going around them. His ability, his speed is just so dynamic that players they naturally get drawn to it, just like the puck. It naturally draws the focus and attention of players. But the important thing to understand about his playmaking ability is that it comes off of his speed and not necessarily his IQ. And I'm not saying he's got low IQ. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying his speed is what gives him the ability to create those passing lanes. And so when you understand that, and as we'll go through it, there's ways to minimize his effectiveness and his ability to see the ice. And then moving into his goal scoring. And so this is the area where I've done plenty of studies. And one of the big studies I did was a 3-year player study where I tracked which skill players use to score goals, their top 3 skills, the top 3 tactics that they use to score goals, and the location of goals that they had. And the interesting thing about McDavid is that he was the only player to have breakaways as his top tactic. And that seems, again, with his speed, it seems pretty natural. But again, he's the only player out of 20 NHL top goal scorers to have breakaways there. So that will, again, I'll show you some insight onto how to neutralize that. And then 69% of his goals were scored 2 feet in front of the crease. And so there's, again, part of his speed, and you're going to see that he has a natural tendency to, instead of shoot the puck, but find his way taking pucks to the net consistently because of how fast he is. But he does not show the ability to shoot the puck outside of there. He really struggles with that, and I'll elaborate on that shortly. And then 6 out of the 41 goals he scored last season were a combination of catch, release, screen, or carry shots with one tip goal. So very few goals in these areas, which is where a majority of every other player in the top 20 goal scoring had. And his were a majority were dekes, these short one-timers around the net, or chip shots off his speed. And so that gives you some insight into how he creates his offense, how he scores his goals, how he's able to find options, how he's able to move the puck so well. And so one of the principles in the IQGame system is probability over possibility. So this is part of this natural tendency that we have for getting locked into highlight videos and being like, oh my God, they're so great, they're so great. And it builds this narrative that we forget that when you understand probabilities and start seeing the game from this side of the fence, like the IQGame system, you'll start to see that there's ways to really minimize players' offensive abilities, especially guys like McDavid. And so McDavid is a playmaking center with an unbelievable speed and great hands and tight. This is what he is. And he is the best at the game when it comes to putting all three of these together. There's no players that are even close to his abilities with all three of them. But what McDavid has not shown the ability to be is a shooter, to score consistently outside the net front and handle time and space with no options. So, and again, that sounds counterintuitive because we always hear the word eliminate time and space when we're on defense. We always say this, but again, with players like McDavid, with the top players in the NHL, there is a different, you have to take a different approach. And so I'll go through that with the examples. And so what is McDavid's kryptonite? And there's two system adjustments that I believe through the statistics that I've been observing, that I've accumulated through the studies that I've done, and several other analytics that have been brought out on you can easily look at NHL.com, that you can make that can really slow down his offensive production. And the first one is the D tracking back to the middle of the net, not to McDavid, and reject access to the weak side post. And then the next one is play inside the dots off the rush and sit on options in the red zone. And so here we're going to go through a bunch of examples on how these two system adjustments can slow down McDavid. And so here we'll watch the first one. And you'll watch this play initially and be like, oh man, he is fast. And he is. He is just, there's no way you can stop him. But it's a system adjustment when you have a player like McDavid with his speed right through here, is you know that Chara is not going to be able to slow him down. And so when you see him blowing by right here, as McAvoy, your job is to skate right back to the post, and Chara can step on him, even though it will allow McDavid to get by him, but it'll give McAvoy the best chance to get back, and then instead of skating backwards, he's already skating forwards. Once McDavid steps by him, now we'll sit on the options. And so racing back to the net right through here, and now why I say skate to the middle of the net is because, again, one of the other studies that I've done, one of the most influential studies that dictates the IQGame system, is whenever the puck crosses the midline of the ice, you have a 20% increase in goal scoring. And that's observing over 5,000 NHL goals one season. And so you see how he's pretty close. If he starts skating forward sooner, he can close this off a little bit. And at the worst case, what we want to do is not skate at him, is skate to this midline, allowing the goalie to step up on him. This way, now the goalie can challenge him a little bit more, and the job of the defenseman is to reject the back post axis. But because he's unable to do this, Rask has to commit one way, fearful of him getting to the far post, which allows the short side shot. Same thing here. Initial reaction is to skate at McDavid, who does a great job of skating on an angle, and then is able to blow right by a defenseman and now create a great goal off that play. Same thing here. Just like that situation I said, this is happening consistently, and he's not scoring on all of them. If you watch his games, this is happening a lot. Instead of getting puck focused, your weak side defenseman needs to race back to the midline of the net. Your strong side can step here, knowing that he will get by, but will take any secondary option on the way back to the net, versus taking this route and then getting beat, inevitably being beat by McDavid, and then forcing your goalie to stay deep in the net, fearing that his ability with his speed to bring it to the weak side post. He comes here, allows the goalie to step up and stay on top of the blue paint, and this defenseman takes a secondary option, will minimize McDavid's threat ability to score goals off the rush with his speed. Again, you see this chip play here, and a very common tendency is to skate right at McDavid versus skating back to that weak side post. And again, this is the ability right through here. It's the recognition. Once this puck gets by this guy here, now it's either back up straight to that mid net or turn around and skate. Once he gets right here, it's instead of trying to close time and space like we're being told, with players like McDavid, you can't do this. With super, super fast players, you cannot do this, because this is what will happen. They'll get that step on you, and now, because of the threat of being able to bring it to the weak side post, Fleury has to stay deep in his crease, making sure he has the ability to get across, which opens up this short side shot. Again, hopefully you're starting to see this pattern occurring. And then right here, same thing. Once he gets this step, instead of trying to poke and hope, it's turn and get back. This defenseman knowingly will get beat, but then will take secondary coverage. But what happens is he goes to skate straight at McDavid, and now it gives him the ability to score that goal. And last one here, same thing here. He starts skating super fast. Instead of skating at him, it's skate to the middle of the net, reject access to the weak side post. If you do that, it'll give you the best chance to slow him up, and it allows your goalie to come out a little more aggressive, to take away that short side, to increase your probability. That's the name of the game in this first principle right here. This system adjustment is to increase your probability that you'll be able to defend his speed, his ability to create offense. And now moving to the second one, this is what happens. The next thing that happens consistently with McDavid is you get three players chasing him or puck focused towards him. And so this is why I say this is essentially the red zone right in here. You play inside the dots, sit on options inside of here to defend and keep him to the outside. You can have one player mirroring him when he has full puck possession. There's no point to skate directly at him and try to close time and space. Because if you do that and he has options, he'll be able to seam the puck by you or blow around you. And so as you see here, as this plays out, now you get three guys running around, and then it inevitably leads right back to McDavid's stick. And then right here, same thing. This is the top defensive player two-way center in the league, one of the top defensive defensemen with Chara here, and you got three guys in the picture right now just glued to him, and he's able to make this backdoor feed and score a goal. This is the same thing I said here. Just talked about. When you see a guy like McDavid, it's recognition. You understand that he's getting this puck on the red line here. You cannot close time and space, especially with options. You need to back up in the dots right here and buy time for the back check to get back. Okay, this will give you the best chance to defend McDavid off the rush. But what's the natural tendency is to step outside the dot right there, and now it creates that seam pass that leads to a goal. It's the same thing here. The last things I'll go through is the 2-on-1s. 2-on-1s. Keep him to one side of the ice. Like I said, he hasn't shown the ability to be a top-level shooter. He doesn't have any goals skating in right here and then shooting and sniping from the dot. He hasn't shown the ability to do that consistently. I'm not saying that he can't do it. He hasn't shown the ability to do that consistently. So this is where you play the probability. Straight down the middle, buy time for the back check, give your goalie the access to step out a little bit further and eliminate this cross seam pass. Okay, this is where probability comes into play. Keeping him on one side of the ice where your goalie has the ability to challenge a little bit more, trusting that you can cut this backdoor pass off. And again, like I said, you're going to see through these 2-on-1 clips, it's just consistently passing through sticks, waiting guys out, not being patient enough. Just be patient. Again, right here, he almost had it. You can go look through McDavid's highlights. He doesn't have a ton of goals just skating straight in and shooting and scoring. He just doesn't. It's once he gets into this area, moving with speed either way, is where he's able to score a majority of his goals. So we need to be more patient when we're playing against a player like this, a high-level player like this. Every time that he gets challenged like that, especially on 2-on-1s, he's able to find that backdoor guy. So in conclusion, McDavid is arguably one of the best players in the game today and will go down as one of the best players of all time. And that's not the purpose of the video, is to try to argue that he isn't. He is. And the main purpose of the video the main objective is to really understand and humanize some of these players' patterns and really get down to what actually makes them so dynamic, and then learning how to see the game from this angle. And what angle I'm talking about is the IQGame system that I've developed. And I believe that hockey IQ development is the way of the future. Like, this is where you're going to see big development gains, and where you're going to see where players can differentiate themselves from others. Because as we've seen, there's a skill is getting right at its peak. There's just a ton of skilled players out there. But what you're starting to hear from coaches is, does he have hockey IQ? Can he see the game? Or is he just a player that can stick handle really fast, or has a really good shot, or is super fast but has no idea where he's going? And so the IQGame system will give you that edge, will give you that ability to translate that skill, take that skill and apply it in a way that can get you to that next level, that will allow you to apply it so that you can take your strengths, kind of like McDavid's been able to do. He's been able to take his strengths and utilize it in a way that now no one else can compete with him in those three areas. He created his own personal, authentic blend of skills. And in conjunction with the way he sees the game, it gives him his competitive advantage. And so if you're more interested in learning more about the IQGame system and how you can get your game to that next level and really develop hockey IQ, make sure to check my website out. You can drop a shift in there for free hockey analysis. And I have a couple different plans that you can jump on here to really build hockey IQ and take your game to that next level.